before I go into it, you have to do this: comment, like, subscribe. Again, the comment, do that when you watch the whole video, because I may address some concerns you have or even agree with you later on in the video or something like that. So it's always beneficial to watch the whole video. I will say, videos like this is why Linux is never going to take over the desktop. Because they're eating themselves alive. If you're coming from the outside in and you're like navigating this landscape of Linux, you have to have like a purity check and all of these things, and people just want to use their computers. They don't want to go into a confession chamber and address their sins and what distro should I use, what technology is accepted, and blah, 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 blah. Also, this is going to be a long video, so take some beverages, watch it in batches, whatever, because I have a lot to say. So why should you listen to me? I hate saying this because it makes me feel old, but I probably use Linux more than 95% of all you Linux YouTubers out there. I started in the mid-90s, and I've been using it ever since. I use it at home, at work. I have a lot to say about Linux, and it's not what you would think it is. It's not rainbows and sunshines and everything is okay and stuff like that. I am one of the few people that look at Linux realistically, from a realistic viewpoint and not an ideology viewpoint or a political viewpoint or a tribal viewpoint. There's something Linux is amazing for, and there's something it just is not good for. And the community is really good at only talking about the good thing and gaslighting you into thinking it's the best thing ever. To the video. First of all, I don't know how old this chap is, but let's just accept or think that they're an adult. You never start a video with, yes, now I know everything. This already, that sentence, no matter if it's a joke or whatever, because some people will not get a joke. Already, when someone say, now I know everything, you should not listen to them because it's humanly impossible to know everything. And it comes from an egotistical, it comes from a narcissistic viewpoint, so to speak, or eccentric or centric viewpoint. And they go into like using it on the surface too. You can read this and yeah, basically here, he's admitting fault. Great. Then don't make this video. And I'm pissed off, don't matter, you know. And he says he knows everything, and then he's showing us he's a noob. Conflicting message, but again, if anyone, here's the thing. Red flags, everyone lost a red flag. I know everything, I'm an expert, I'm a guru. Nobody knows everything, nobody's an expert, nobody's a guru. That's it, let's get into this almost 9-minute video, and I always spend 4 minutes in the intro, so it's going to be a long one, but...
I wanted to make a nice video explaining how to de-Ubuntuize Ubuntu, meaning how to remove snap and use deb packages and eventually GNOME software and Flatpak. I thought it would be really interesting to many people. Well, it didn't go as planned at all. Despite being a very balanced person, the experience I lived trying to remove snap from Ubuntu is completely scandalous.
So here's the thing. Being a balanced person, no. Being scandalous, no. Here's the thing. Ubuntu is a distribution. It's done by a corporation. By the way, that is the reason why you have 90% of all the things that you have on Linux nowadays. Ubuntu spend a lot of money in research and development, driver testing, talking to companies to get things working on your distribution. It's the single-handed distribution to get most people to Linux. If you talk to any new Linux user, they almost all started on either Ubuntu or an Ubuntu derivative distribution, which come back to the other point I have. The vast majority of distributions are based on Ubuntu. Like it or not, the reason why Linux is where it is today is Ubuntu. Ubuntu was the first targeted platform from Valve. You may not like their business practices and stuff like that. Fine. It's a company, it do what a company does. I get it. And you may not want to use it for those reasons. Fine. But it's not cancer. It's single-handedly one of the biggest contributors to the open source community that give you a lot of shit. Arch Linux don't do much for the Linux community. They just take other people's works and repackaging it. The same with a lot of other distributions that you may like. Guerrilla Linux don't do much for the Linux community. They take other people's work, repackaging it, and sending it out. I will say, I'll put some names up here. Debian, SUSE, OpenSUSE, Fedora / Red Hat, and Canonical. Without those distributions, you will not have Linux today. They are the ones doing all the heavy lifting. And Red Hat, SUSE, and Canonical, aka Ubuntu, or the one doing Ubuntu, are the heaviest lifters. Ubuntu probably be the biggest one that gives you better driver support, getting companies to support Linux, etc., etc. Just know that before you start throwing stones at the hands that feeds you.
This is no longer Linux. Maybe some of you already knew about this situation, but since
How is it not Linux? And I'm going to stop a lot, but how is it not Linux? It's running the Linux kernel. Granted, it's an Ubuntu version of the Linux kernel, just like Arch is using an Arch version, Gentoo is using a Gentoo version. I think the only one really using a vanilla Linux kernel is Slackware and Linux from scratch. So go use one of those, which I did for many years. It's Linux. Just because you don't agree with what they are doing, don't mean it's Linux. Again, I get you're emotional, don't make this video. That is kind of like a content creator rule here in life. Never make videos while you're emotional. That's one of them, because you will put your foot in your mouth and the things is going to get haywire. You may have thought this because you were frustrated in the situation. I get this. But saying Ubuntu is not Linux anymore, no Linux distribution is Linux again, then, because it just don't make sense. But yeah, again, it's using... Let me put it this way. If Ubuntu is not Linux, then you can say any Linux distribution not using vanilla kernel is not Linux. And there will be the fucking idiots that come to channels like mine, and probably also yours, and say, oh, it's GNU Linux, and Linux is really the kernel. Even though we know when you're talking about, say, Linux, you mean the ecosystem and the distributions and stuff like that. So if they come to you, just kick them out, by the way.
I work with many distributions and use Debian as my main system. I had never gotten to this point until today. So if the title seems extremist to you, well, it's not. Ubuntu is a cancer.
That is extremist. That is basically saying that Ubuntu is infesting an ecosystem and killing it from the inside. How is that not extremist? That is inherently extremist viewpoint, because that's not the case. There's many thriving distributions that don't do what Canonical does and don't use snap packs. Like he mentioned Flatpaks, which is a Red Hat technology, is heavily sponsored by Red Hat, which is basically owned by IBM and doing a lot of bad things. And IBM is owned by a Chinese company, which in of itself can be bad. Like, again, I don't like it. I disagree with it. It's not my favorite distribution. I don't like what they're doing. All of these things will make it seem less extremist. I get why you're doing it, because it gets you clicks, 12,000+ views, because of the title. I get it, you have to do that. But don't say it's not what you're saying it is, because calling it cancer is an extremist view.
And if you use Ubuntu and don't care at all about these Linux user issues, well, know that you're not very smart to continue using this distribution.
Again, he just removed any credibility whatsoever. So I have talked, I have seen videos, I have worked with people that probably have a collected higher IQ than any of us watching this video right now. And they used anything from Windows, Mac OS, Ubuntu, SUSE, Fedora, and Red Hat. And some also use Arch and stuff like that. Right now, having this mentality, I would go out on a limb and say you should never watch a video from this channel again. Because there is a security complex, a narcissistic security complex going on in his brain right now. I don't like what Ubuntu is doing. I think I'm smarter than everyone else, so therefore you must be stupid.
Look with your own eyes. Listen with your own ears. KDE Live takes 25 seconds to start up. Want to see how long it takes to start on the same machine on my old, troglodyte, extremist, and outdated Debian 13? My friend, immediately. And this is not acceptable from a technical and performance point of view. So
again, you don't understand what Snappack is trying to do and why they are slow to start up. You cannot criticize a technology you don't understand, so you are the stupid one. So again, let me educate you. There is a reason why we have Flatpaks, app-images, and snap packages. For almost since, let's say, 2000, the collective Linux user base and professional world was tired of packaging software for X, Y, and Z distribution, because they used a package manager that used a specific format for that. Debian, deb files, RPMs, ZTC, and whatever the fuck they all are using. Flat packages and app images and snap packages were sent out to do that. one of the other things that snap packages and flat packages are trying to solve is having independent software updates from the base operating system. So that means you have to detach the software from the operating system. So that means you can run whatever version of the software you want with whatever library versions you want without having to have bloated, jangled, spaghetti coded, not spaghetti, but spaghetti mangled file system that we had in the past. We had like 10,000 fucking libraries, those different versions and stuff like that. We got almost, not 100%, but almost self-contained packages with Snap and flat packages, which you're going over to flat packages that have the same startup problem, by the way, sometimes. They're not truly sandbox, but that's another point. And why did they do that? But that's because a lot of people would like to run, let's say, Debian, but they want the latest software, or they were running a server that, you don't update a server that often, because why the fuck should you? It's working. So they make sure that the core system, the core OS was running fine, and then you could use Snap packs to get a later version, or flat packages for that matter, and they got updated independently from the core OS. And what the packages did almost had no influence on how the core OS worked, because here's the thing with having, different library versions, stuff like that, is you get into a lot of problems, where programs then have look at, they maybe programs to just use the latest version, or a specific version, and you get into all this jangleness where programs stop working, or the OS update a library that should not be updated, so you have to hold it in the package manager and stuff like that. The community wanted this. The professional world wanted this. And how to make this is to basically run packages in a, for lack of a better word, if you are a developer, think Docker container kind of thing, or if you are a layman's term, think about small virtual machines. This is super simplified and not how it works, but that's how you should think about it. So when you're booting up Kdenlive Live as a Snap package, you're basically booting up a version of Linux running in the background in a not emulated, but you're booting up. That's why they have the core 18 dot and core 20 dot and core 24 dot and stuff like that. That's basically that year's version of Linux in a really, 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 really bare bone form that you are booting up to run the program. A little bit like you're booting up a Docker container to host or serve your program. That is why it takes this time. I get it's slow, but that's why, I'm not excusing the time, I'm just explaining it. And if you want independently separate packaging from your system, this is what you need to deal with.
If you're an Ubuntu user who doesn't give a damn about philosophy and open source, then why don't you try something else?
You don't have to care about philosophy to run Linux. That is a gatekeeping, low IQ take. And you also don't have to care about open source. It's a development philosophy. Unless you are a developer, it barely has any influence on you, other than you get a lot of free shit. I will bet my hairy ass that this dude is mostly using Linux because he gets free shit. And then he's using this philosophy and open source as a reason to not sound like a leech. Again, when people make these statements, don't listen to them, because these statements are self-serving statements. He is making them for himself. He don't give a fuck about you. He don't care about your life situation or what you need. There are people that want to run Linux, but they need to run proprietary software, or they can't run the open source version of that software. And as a community, we should be supportive of that, no matter how angry we are. Again, this is why you don't make videos when you're angry.
Install Fedora. Install Zorin. God, I never thought I'd recommend Zorin to someone, but if you really have to leave Ubuntu, do it.
Well, Zorin is Ubuntu just with a skin on it, so you're not leaving Ubuntu.
Let me explain the reasons for this situation. The reasons are simple. I started making this guide for Ubuntu, and, well, I'm not the perfect hacker.
I don't even think I just clicked it. Now I clicked it earlier, and I went back because so much time has passed, and I thought it was a launch. I was even about to open the terminal to try launching it from... What the fuck is he talking about? Oh,
I messed up my system and had to reinstall. It seems that Snap Core brings with it the entire desktop environment and even some fundamental utilities.
It does. You should know this. I'm not a good hacker. Then don't fucking try and do this thing. There are distribution makers out there that have they have de-Ubuntuized Ubuntu. Right now, he's bitching and moaning about a lack of skill, which I get. It can be frustrating. I was like, I was yelling and screaming and throwing monkey fits at my computer when I learned Linux the first time. Or, well, not the first time, but when I started to learn Linux. It's not fun. You will do a lot of shit, but here's the thing. Don't blame the distribution for you being a fucking lack of skill and being a bad hacker, so to speak. You can take steps away. Is it a hassle? Is it irritating? Yes. You might as well just go with one of the derivatives. But you can. I have a saying, and I've showcased this in live stream many times, where we have taken one distribution and make it into another one, for example. If it's based on if we're taking, I took like Ubuntu LTS and made it into an elementary OS, basically. There was only one thing I didn't got to work, and that was a little. It was one thing I can't remember. It was a library we had to compile from source, and I had to stop the stream because I have to do a grown-up shit. But we got 99% there. If you cannot get any distributions to do exactly what you want, you don't know Linux. If you cannot take snaps away from Ubuntu, you don't know Linux. If you cannot make Ubuntu or any distribution do whatever you want and run whatever software you want, you don't know Linux. Because you can. You just have to educate yourself.
I said to myself, no problem. I'll reinstall and make a guide on how to remove Snap and Snap Store, avoiding removing the fundamental components that would ruin my system.
Yeah, you do that by removing snaps, and then you go into the command line and then you install GNOME from either PPA or from the native repositories. And I do know that Ubuntu in the repositories do point to a snap package. I get that, which I also think is bullshit, by the way. But there are ways of doing it. Uninstall Ubuntu Desktop. That's the biggest thing. Don't use Ubuntu Desktop. Uninstall Ubuntu Desktop, install XFCE, or install XFCE or some fucking, low-key fucking i3 or something like that. Or CD, Common Desktop Environment, CDE. Install one of those. Remove Ubuntu Desktop. Remove all the snap packages that you don't need. Remove Snapd. Remove all of that fucking shit. And then you install GNOME Desktop, not Ubuntu Desktop. And why? Is because Ubuntu Desktop is based on snap packages. GNOME Desktop should not be.
So I create my file, remove the delicate parts, and go ahead, uninstall Firefox and company. As you can see, there are few files. It's a fresh installation. So I add the Firefox PPA from terminal to use the deep package, and here comes the beauty.
Deep, it's step package.
For God and for all the penguins existing on Earth, the system tells me that Firefox is installed, Snap Firefox, but Firefox is not installed.
You download the deb file from the website and you install. You don't need to use the package manager. That will also add in the repository, or links to the repository, so it will update itself. Again, if you know Linux, you will know this.
I reboot and try again. Same error. I try to force APT. Same error. Well, I said to myself, now I'm going to remove this shit from my computer. And I need a browser anyway, even to search for information on the internet. I try to install Chromium. Well, Chromium wasn't installed and wasn't removed with Snap. It should work. I add the PPA, proceed.
Well, you put in the wrong PPA. 404 not found.
Sudo apt install Chromium, and damn, Ubuntu installs the Snap version. Ubuntu installs the Snap version.
But again, that's because I don't agree with this. It directs you to the Snap version if you're using apt. That's why you go on to Chrome, you go click download, select the deb file, download that, and you install that via the package manager. Then you get the deb version. If you know Linux, you will know this.
But it doesn't end there. I try with other packages, VLC, Snap, LibreOffice. Guess what?
VLC, Snap? Oh.
Snap. It's like Ubuntu decided that you, poor user, don't have the right to choose how to install your programs.
Well, again, like I said, there is other ways of doing it. You can even force it via the command. I can't remember the right command to do it. But you can force it to use the deb file if it's in the repository. That's why I say to a lot of people, if you want to make sure you get a specific version of a program, go to that program's website, look at the install instructions. And most of them will have a deb RPM file that you just download and install, and it will add the repositories to your repository list and install the software in that selected package format. Again, if you know Linux, you will know this.
It's a digital dictatorship. And you know what's the most frustrating thing? that these snap packages are slow.
I explained why that is. It's a dictatorship. It's no more dictatorship than you say that proprietary software is bad, Ubuntu is cancer, you should use this over that. It's a canonical technology that are responding to a thing most people want. If you don't like it, don't use it. They are doing it because their customers wanted it. Maybe not you, but the other customers. The one that actually are paying for Ubuntu. The one that are giving them money so they can give you free shit. Those want it. If you don't like it, use something else. Just like Red Hat has specific proprietary Red Hat bits, SUSE has specific proprietary SUSE bits. I can go on and on and on. There are things in Debian that are done in a way that only works on Debian. Heck, are you telling me that Pacman's native package format is GCZ, something like that? Can't remember right now. Is that a dictatorship that you have to use that? I know you can use the AUR to convert RPM and deb packages, but they are kind of making it easier for you to not to. Is that not a dictatorship? Are they not dictating you what to do? If you download a distribution and only have one main desktop environment, is that a dictatorship because it's pre-installing and forcing you to use one system by default? Or is it just organizations/developers wanting you to use their technologies or technologies that they like? Because a dictatorship would be like you don't have a choice. You do. You can't get away from it. You can. You can remove snaps. You cannot use it. Is it inconvenient? Yes. Just like if I'm installing a distribution that only can pre-install with, let's say, GNOME. I have to fucking uninstall that shit. I don't use Firefox, I don't use Thunderbird, and a lot of distributions come with that, so I have to uninstall it. They are dictating me what to use until I uninstall it, of course.
Incredibly slow. Every time you open a Snap application, it seems like it's decompressing the entire universe. On my system, a simple Snap text editor takes longer to open than LibreOffice native on Debian. It's absurd. But you know what the cherry on top is? I tried to check how much space these blessed snaps occupy on the disk. Guys, get ready. Firefox Snap takes up more than 200 megabytes. 200 megabytes for a browser. The Deb version of Firefox.
Oh, sweet summer child. That's nothing. So, if you install a snap package, not a snap package, sorry, a deb file, or deep file as he called it here, with all the associated libraries and stuff like that, that it also is downloading, you may not save much space. Because most of that space is actually things it need to run. The thing with Flag packages, snap packs, and apps is that they bundle everything into one place, so it's easier for you to see how much space it's actually taking. I can tell you Chrome takes more space. Try and install, a really good example to see how much space it actually takes is like if you have a Windows machine running, try to install the same program on Windows, it will tell you how much space it takes. Just because on Debian you go in and say sudo apt install Firefox and it says, oh, I'm downloading Firefox, the package Firefox is like, let's say 40 megabytes. But then it's downloading these thousands of dependencies. You have to count them in also. And 400 megabytes, oh, my sweet summer child, that's nothing. That's actually slow, or not slow, that's actually nothing.
It takes about 60 megabytes. We're talking about a 300% space waste. And this for every single Snap application.
300% space waste? How the fuck did you get to that number? Again, look at how much Firefox takes in a deb file with all its dependencies, and then we can talk.
Installed. I'm sure there's a way, I hope there is, and I'm sure someone has made a how-to on YouTube so I could manage to use Ubuntu peacefully. But I'm sorry.
Again, why the fuck do you want to? With all these problems you have, there is other distributions out there. Why do you want to use Ubuntu? Unless you are using a canonical service at work or at home, which I highly doubt because they are super expensive. Maybe at work, but at home and not. Why would you want to run Ubuntu? And I see he's using Ubuntu Desktop, which will explain why he can't remove the snap thingy. Is it because you like Ubuntu Desktop, which is a bastardized GNOME, basically?
Sorry, this is enough for me. This is no longer Linux.
Again, it is Linux, you just disagree with it, but it is Linux.
Honestly, I'm a normal user. I'm not an engineer or a developer, and I judge based on my poor experience.
So... let me make a video about where I am the whole problem of this situation here. He just said, I am the problem. How can Ubuntu be cancelled then if you are the problem? You're just pissed off because you don't do what you wanted to do because you lack the skill to do what you wanted to do. A me problem. But let me make a video where I'm telling you it's not really a me problem, it's an Ubuntu problem. No. You are the cancer here then.
This system is a cancer. A normal user would never be able to uninstall it, and if they tried, they would find...
You can easily uninstall Ubuntu. You mean uninstall snap packages? Well, most users use Ubuntu don't want to uninstall snap packages. This is a really unique, specific thing for a really small percentage of the user base that want to do that. Basically, people that think they're smarter than anyone else. People that use Ubuntu don't mind if it takes 10 seconds extra to start up a snap package. They just live with it. Most people that use Ubuntu use because they like some other things about Ubuntu. And they don't care much about that. And if they care about things that Ubuntu is doing not so good, in their opinion, they use another distribution and be happy with that. Not every distribution has to be for you. That's why we have the plethora of fucking distributions out there, when 90% of them make no sense and have no place to be in, because they're just a reskin fucking distribution with another wallpaper on it. But there are distributions out there that do things differently. Find your distro.
Themselves on the ground without a system. This is not acceptable. It goes well.
Well, Ubuntu was not made or expected to remove snap packages. And again, you can do it. Why the fuck do you think Mint don't have it in their system? Because you can do it.
Well beyond the fact that Snap is a system managed by Ubuntu.
No, it's managed by Canonical that owns Ubuntu that then are managed. Actually, I don't know if Ubuntu is directly in charge of Snap or if it's Canonical, but they're kind of the same.
It's into Linux, and Linux can't get rid of it.
Linux can get rid of snap packages. There's many Linux distributions that don't use snap packages. Ubuntu can also get rid of snap packages. It's just difficult, and you need to learn the skill.
I don't know if this is in line with the GPL license, but
it is. It is. Have you ever read the GPL license? If you've not read the GPL license, you have no base on actually talking about it. It's me like talking about fucking astrophysics, about, the conditions of Uranus. And how it would be, how we should get there, how we could live there, how we could terraform it. I have no fucking idea about that. I've never researched it. So therefore I shut my fat fucking ass when we're talking about that. This is the most clueless fucking Linux user I've ever seen in my life.
It's not at all in line, not even sideways, with the most basic principles of the Linux world and open.
Oh, so you're the gatekeeper of what is... Again, this is a purity test. This is why I don't recommend Linux to a lot of people. You have to go through a purity test. There is no such thing that what he just talked about. There are no... What did he call it?
All in line, not even side to. This creeps into Linux, and Linux can't get rid of it.
It can.
I don't know if this is in line with the GPL license, but it's not at all in line, not even sideways, with the most basic principles of the...
Okay, those principles, those guidelines, is user-introduced. Not by Linus, not by Ubuntu, not by some distributions make it do that, but this is the users that say it is like that. This is a self-inflicted problem. I'm stabbing myself in the leg and I'm bleeding, and there's something, like, we have to follow the guidelines of bleeding in the leg. This makes no fucking sense. There is no guidelines or principles of Linux. It's a fucking OS. It's not like a fucking lifestyle. It's not a religion. It's not a political party. It's an OS that helps you communicate with your hardware and work. If you don't like what one software do, use another one. Case over.
Linux world and open source.
Okay.
But let's also talk about the technical problems that nobody tells you about. Snap packages create loop devices that occupy memory and system resources. Every time you install a Snap application, the system creates a new mounted loop device. On a system with many Snap applications, you can get to have 20 to 30 loop devices active simultaneously.
Oh, again, sweet summer child, go research loop devices on and how they interact with your file system and your memory. And I don't have... This could have been a 2-hour video if you have to educate this person.
This not only consumes RAM, but also slows down the system's I/O operations.
No, it don't.
And then there's the update problem.
Well, it can potentially use RAM, depending on how it's set up, and if you're using snap packs and so on, it don't impact any significant form on I/O operations.
With traditional deb packages, you choose when to update. With Snap, Ubuntu decides for you. Updates are automatic and forced.
Wait, did the sound just get fucking all jacked up?
And then there's the update problem, 20 to 30 device. On a system with many Snap applications, you can get to have 20 to 30 loop devices active simultaneously. This not only consumes RAM, but also slows down the system's
The sound did, either in my headset, the sound did something weird.
I/O operations. And then there's the update problem. With traditional deb packages, you choose when to update. With Snap, Ubuntu decides for you. Updates are automatic and forced.
Just like Electron apps do a lot of time, just like, a lot of other apps do. When you boot up, they ask you to update. You can hold snap packages, you can hold them in place. Again, this is a feature people actually want. It's something that they've requested, so yeah.
You can't disable them completely. It's like someone entering your house and moving furniture without asking your permission.
No, it's not. And again, you can take this feature away. It's a daemon that check the fucking snap repository, and if there's an update. I'm almost sure you can configure that so it don't update automatically and you have to do it. Or you can hold the individual packages.
Moreover, each Snap application runs in a separate sandbox environment,
It's not truly sandbox, because if it was sandbox, it would not have access to system resources. But yeah, let's keep going.
in theory should be more secure, but in practice creates integration problems with the system. Snap applications
And that is why they are not truly sandboxed.
often can't access files in your home directory, don't integrate well with system themes, and create inconsistencies in the user interface.
And that's done because of security. I don't know how to say this. That's a security measurement. That's actually making your system more secure. The more difficult it is for programs to access system resources, the more secure it is. So do you want the security you say Linux has? Again, this is a response to what the community and the users wanted out of snap packages. That's why they're doing it. This is actually security measurement. And again, also why it's not sandbox, 100% sandbox, but it's like semi-sandbox, or what you would call it. But they do stuff like that for security reasons. So people can make a program that just automatically hijack your fucking webcam and watch you wank off to animate titties. Or fucking your dog, or whatever you're doing. Or your chickens, or your ferrets, if you're private software. This was a joke, by the way, because he loves suing people or getting at people.
And let's not talk about dependencies. With deb packages, shared libraries are used by multiple applications.
Which, again, I talked about that before. It's a fucking bitch, okay? Like, shared libraries is good, but they also give you a lot of headaches. A lot of headaches.
Saving space and memory. With Snap, each application brings with it all its dependencies, creating absurd duplications. You can have
That's because of app stability, containerization, as you talked about, security. Do I need to go on? I don't think I need to go on.
the same library installed 10 times for 10 different applications. We must have freedom of choice, and we must have the right to want to modify our systems.
So here's the thing. You do have freedom of choice. You don't use it. You don't have the right to modify your system. That's a benefit or a privilege the distribution maker gives you. You don't have the right to it. There's nowhere in the consumer laws that says that you have the right to customize your OS. You have no rights when it comes to that. Someone is making a product, spending millions of dollars and thousands of man hours, so you, my friend, can get free shit. And if you're not happy using it, use something else. What really fucking drives my left testicle all the way up into my sinuses is when the Linux community demands shit. Not giving back, not donating money to projects, they're just leeching off other people's work, and then they demand shit on top of that. You know what? You should just be happy and content that a massive company is giving you something they easily could charge $30, $50, $100 for. You are not entitled to any fucking thing.
And this Snap behavior is absurd. It's against everything Linux was born and grew for in these days.
Nope. understand your history with Linux. Linux was not even built to be a desktop replacement. It was built to be a development environment, basically replacing Unix. That was why he built it, to test a new processor, and because he couldn't afford a Unix OS he needed for university. All of this you're talking about now is bullshit the Linux community has put onto Linux. That was not what it was built for. It was not built for taking over the world. It was not built to running on IoT devices. It does. It was not built to be a server OS. It is. It's not built to be a desktop replacement. It is. He did it so he could develop for university. Now it's something else, yes. But don't say that Linux was made to say fuck you to proprietary software and blah. Linux was proprietary in the first fucking few months that it existed. People nowadays that want to be experts know so fucking little about what they're talking about that I want to fucking move to Mars without a fucking suit on.
Decades. Ubuntu has betrayed the Linux community.
No, it has not betrayed the Linux community. It's just a company's vision of what Ubuntu should be doing. Here's the thing. Ubuntu used to be a desktop-only OS. Or distro. No server, no nothing like that. It was failing. So it has to become a corporate OS or distro to make money so you can get free shit. Ubuntu is made mostly for the corporate world, not you. So it's doing what satisfies the people that are giving them fucking money, that are making sure that they can exist. And until you do that, you have no right to bitch and moan. You just say, thank you, or you say, not for me. That is the options you have. And here's another thing. When you get something for free, you have no consumer rights. Your consumer right is to just not use it. This is a massive video about massively low IQ, don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and entitlement. And blaming Ubuntu for that. And we have 30,000 views right now. Holy shit.
It has betrayed the principles of open source.
Nope.
It has betrayed the freedom of...
Again, learn about the principles of open source. This has nothing to do with principles about open source. Open source is source availability, and open source is also different from the Free Software Foundation's philosophy about how to do source availability. Open source is the practical viewpoint, the Free Software Foundation is the political viewpoint of it, where open source, the open source movement, strive to get everything to be open source, but they don't necessarily force people to do it. They would like if everyone did it, but they're like, we need to work together. So they are more inclined to work with proprietary software and stuff like that than the Free Software Foundation that wants everything to be open source or source available. AKA, the Free Software Foundation is a dictatorship, the open source movement, not.
Choice that should be the foundation of every new Linux distribution worthy of this name.
No, it should not. Whatever a Linux distribution is and do is in the power of the distribution maker. They're the one making the fucking shit. Just like if I'm saying to Coca-Cola they have to reformulate their formula. No, it's Coca-Cola's fucking power to do so. If I don't like how it tastes, there's Pepsi, there's other fucking Coke brands out there, or lookalikes, or what you would call it. Again, entitlement.
But you know what makes me most angry? That Ubuntu uses its dominant position to force Snap on users.
No, it don't. It only forces Snap. Well, again, it's pre-installed. So is any Linux distribution that have pre-installed GNOME, Firefox, Thunderbird, LibreOffice, are they forcing that onto the user? Because that's the argument that you're making here.
It's like Microsoft in the 90s integrating Internet Explorer into Windows to destroy the competition. Ubuntu is doing the exact same thing with Snap.
Again, so is any other Linux distribution do with Firefox, LibreOffice, Thunderbird. But we don't fuck around by them. We don't yell at them. We do yell at Ubuntu.
And then there are the privacy implications. All Snap packages are downloaded from Canonical's Snap store. This means
all deb packages for Debian is downloaded for Debian controlled repositories, and if you're using non-Debian repositories, you're using a random fucking person that probably have no idea how to do server security. You are now trusting them. It's the same fucking shit. It's just who do you trust the most? Do you trust Ubuntu, Canonical, over the Debian crowd? Do you trust the Debian crowd over a random fucking community-driven repository? It's the same fucking shit. It's not like you're getting your deb files from like 10,000 random fucking repositories maintained by 10,000 random fucking people, which most of them have no fucking idea how to do server security, or even package security, or development security, or code security.
Means that Canonical knows exactly what software you install, when you install it, and where you install it from.
Okay, so that's not privacy, that's telemetry, that's different things. So do Debian. So do any other Linux distribution. They know what you're downloading, who you are. It's just a matter of do they keep that data or not. And here's the thing. They need that information. They need your IP to send you the package. They need the telemetry of your installed software database, so to speak, so they can see if there is an update or not and send that update to you. There is communication between you and a server somewhere, and God hope that you trust that server that you're communicating with, because it knows a lot about your computer. It has to know your IP address, or else they can't fucking communicate. It has to know your exact IP address. It has to know what your system is made of. Can you use this format? You know, are you running a Debian if you're running Debian and you're trying to enable a Arch repository? It also has to know, is it the right fucking, you know, are you using an ARM processor, are you using an Intel processor, what are you using? So it can send you the right fucking package format. And then it has to do that with all the packages and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
With traditional Debian repositories, this information is not tracked centrally. But
it is, you can actually opt in and out of that. They have a popularity thingy.
What hurts me most is seeing how Ubuntu is corrupting the next generation of Linux users. New users who start with Ubuntu think that Snap is Linux. They don't even know that better alternatives exist, faster ones, more respectful of their freedom.
Again, if they don't need to, if they don't want to, that's their prerogative. You should not dictate them what they should like, not like. You should not dictate them what they should care about or not care about. You get what I'm coming at here? Snap packages are solving a lot of problems. Is it the best? No. But it is solving a lot of problems that people want it solved. If you don't like it, don't use it. If you don't want new users to be quote-unquote tainted, don't recommend it to people.
Fortunately, there are still distributions that respect the fundamental principles of free software.
Again, don't go against the fundamental principles of free software. Show me the fundamental principles of free software, which is source availability. Giving back the changes that you are making. Snaps do all of that. Not the Snap Store, that's proprietary, but Snaps do. Those are open source.
Linux Mint, which is also based on Ubuntu, has removed Snap by default.
So, they can do it, but you can't. Skill issue? So it can't be done. You just spent 7 minutes saying it can't be done.
System 76's Pop! OS has done the same. Debian obviously remains pure. Fedora offers...
It's not as pure as you think it is. There's actually non-free firmware software on the main OS now, ISO now, that used to be separate. So that basically means that you're using, well, things that goes against the free software fundamental pillars of free software and open source when you're using Debian. If you have a device that needs non-free firmware, again, educate yourself.
There's a modern experience without compromising on freedom. OpenSUSE with its YAST is incredibly powerful and user-friendly. So my advice? If you're using Ubuntu, wake up. There are much better alternatives. Debian, Fedora, OpenSUSE, Manjaro, Pop! OS, Linux Mint, all distributions that still respect the fundamental principles of free software.
Ubuntu, again, don't go against them. Look at the fundamental, not laws, but pillars of the open source movement, and look at the fundamental pillars of the Free Software Foundation.
Don't be fooled by Ubuntu's apparent ease. Under that user-friendly surface hides a system that takes away your freedom of choice.
No, it don't. No, it don't. If you want the dev version, you go onto the website, you download the dev version, or you use a repository that have the dev version, and you install that package. Or you use another distribution. You have plenty of choice. This dude, or some say this is an AI voiceover, have no fucking idea what they're on about. And this is me being nice.
And this, guys, is not Linux.
It is. Well, technically nothing is Linux unless you're using the pure vanilla Linux kernel. But it is Linux.
Normal users shouldn't have to fight against their own operating system just
Most people don't fight Ubuntu because they don't dislike snaps.
to install the software they want. This is not acceptable.
Who are you, the dictator, saying this is not acceptable? You a dictator now? You are the gatekeeper of what should be acceptable or not? Yes, Saddam Hussein.
Goes against everything the open source world stands for.
No. This is something the open source users have put on open source, not what's the movement of the Free Software Foundation stand for. This is just something the users themselves have made up in their fucking collective brains that this is what it is about, when it's not.
And frankly, it's a betrayal of user trust.
No, it's not. I will bet that you could trust Ubuntu better than you could trust most other Linux distributions. So, what I was trying to say before is, from this video, I would not take anything seriously.
I wanted to make a nice video.
I will not take anything seriously that this dude is saying. Don't have the skill, have not done the research, is talking out their ass. And here's the thing. I get that YouTube is a place where everyone can just sit and say their mind and stuff like that. But I do think that there should be some moral obligations. Meaning that you don't talk about shit you don't know anything about without making it clear that you don't know anything about this. This dude knows everything by knowing nothing. Even if they're pissed off. If you're going to talk tech on YouTube, at least fucking know what you're talking about. If you're making it in to like you are the authority of what's going on. Nowhere here does it says that don't regard or disregard what I'm saying. This is all opinionated, which it is, and opinions are not facts. I'm just talking out from pure emotions, which kind of did with being pissed off. So that's a little bit of a, I get you, that's, okay. But you should know what you're talking about because you are influencing a lot of people. In this case, 13,000 views. And I know people that have used Linux for 2 months that know more about this situation and can do exactly what he was trying to do. This is why I don't like watching Linux YouTubers anymore. Because most of them is either just talking politics, which I don't fucking care about, or they are spewing out opinions left, right, and center like they were facts. And they're getting their user base to believe that fucking bullshit. And then when you read the fucking papers, you read the fucking pillars of what this is about, and you realize it's not about what they are saying, it's just personal opinion, you get a lot of people being confused. If you don't know what you're talking about, shut your mouth. Don't make a tech channel. This is a tech channel. If you don't understand what you're talking about. It took me almost 25 years of dealing with Linux before I felt comfortable talking about it in this form. 25 years. I've migrated more people also Linux than you can dream of. I've helped more people with Linux than you can dream of. I've talked to companies, sales reps about Linux more than you can dream of in real life and not in this fucking bullshit situation here. Most Linux channels is political opinions, philosophical opinions, and no skill. This is one of them. Don't watch this channel. Just like a side note, if you don't believe me, look at the comment section. They're all almost agreeing with him. Is this a community you want to be part of? Where they're eating themselves alive? I get it. If you don't like what they're doing, you don't agree with what this distribution is doing, use another fucking distro. End of fucking conversation. And if enough people stop using Ubuntu, Canonical be like, why are you guys not using our shit? And you guys would say, snap packages. And they would be like, let's remove it then. Just because you don't like something, move on, move over. Don't be a negative Andy. This is fuel. This here, all proprietary developers, all Windows lovers, Mac OS lovers, love this. Because they're looking at you fighting with each other. They don't have to do anything to make Linux a bad place to be, because you're doing it for them. Just be like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I need to learn. Ubuntu's not doing it for me. I'm moving on. Don't be like an entitled dictator about it. Don't sit here and talk about the pillars of X, Y, and Z when you don't understand the pillars of X, Y, and Z. Videos like this is helping Windows and Mac OS more than it's helping Linux. This is what drives me nuts. Stop fighting. And then just be like, this is not for me. It don't do what I wanted to do, but there's others to do. And I don't want to learn the skill to make it do what I want to do, which is fine. Move over to something else. Stop giving the proprietary world ammunition and wonder why people look at you like lunatics in an asylum that have taken over the dog pond. See you all later. Bye-bye.